Hello, I'm joined today by Sid Chand Lall, the elite rated manager for Marlborough Multi Cap Income. Thank you very much for joining us, Sid.
Thank you for inviting me.
Smaller companies are not usually thought of for paying dividends. Often I think in investors' minds we think of them for growth. But can they, you obviously have a lot of smaller companies in your fund, can they pay dividends as well?
Traditionally, smaller companies probably shouldn't pay dividends if they're at a stage of their life cycle where they are requiring growth capital. So inevitably what happens is the balance sheet can be stretched, and actually paying dividends in those circumstances would be incorrect. However, if you can pick profitable cash generative small companies where the balance sheet is not stretched, and in fact the business model so allows it that they can not only reinvest in the opportunities that they're seeking for growth in earnings, then you'll also get the dividends coming through. So effectively they can do both.
Can you explain to our viewers the term dividend cover?
Dividend cover is effectively earnings per share covering your dividend per share. So by that, what we're trying to avoid is having a business which is paying a dividend through debt, or not having enough income to effectively fund the dividends through what should then effectively become cash flow as well. And applying it to how we judge or analyze dividend cover in our fund, we want the free cash flow to be covering the dividend. More specifically, free cash flow has various definitions, but what we try to do is effectively take every cash absorption item into that calculation. And if you've still got enough left over to pay the dividend, then that is essentially your sustainable dividend cover, or at least one indicator of why the dividend should be sustainable going forward.
And do you think it's easier to find dividends which are covered with your multi-cap approach versus perhaps some of your peers who are forced to only invest in larger companies?
It certainly widens the footprint, so it gives us a lot more choice rather than being restricted to say 80 or 90 of the stocks within the FTSE 100 that may or may not meet that requirement. So yes, indeed, having that diversity is extremely valuable.
And Brexit is obviously a big headline at the moment. As a UK fund manager, what have you done to prepare for it, or are you doing anything at all, or is it just business as usual?
It's a watching brief because there are so many variables. I don't think anybody really knows, even now, what the final outcome will be. However, our portfolio has 135 holdings, many of which actually have foreign earnings as well. And when we last did the calculation, we had 60% of the weighted group revenues coming from the UK, not all of which were bad. And if evidence is required, when we look back at the last big correction that happened around the referendum itself from June 16, the one thing we didn't do was change the process. So essentially we've shown that ability to recover through what could have otherwise been a very difficult period for some years to come. And I think going into this next year or two, what we want to do is stick to the knitting, follow the investment process just as we did, because that's what paid off and allowed the fund to hit new highs again. Also, it is actually a very diverse portfolio, as I said before. So the geographical split allows actually for the best of both worlds, which is very easily overlooked and not often understood. There are some other aspects to the fund which are not always appreciated. So there's a 20% non-qualifying allowance within the fund where we can actually increase positions to non-UK holdings, but they will be in keeping with the investment process, as I said before. Also, we do have about 19% of our current holdings in the FTSE 100 itself, and there is no particular hard limit within our mandate about having a ceiling on that. However, we do keep the bias towards small and mid-cap stocks because actually there's plenty of capital growth in there as well. So there are various tools that we can deploy as required.
Thank you very much for joining us, Sid.
Pleasure.